why don't you let me work for you for free? You don't have to pay me. I knew that I didn't want to work anywhere else. Worst comes to worst, I give a couple months.
You got your real estate license when you were a junior in high school.
I was in the library studying at the time when everybody else was going to parties. I'm willing to do whatever I have to do. You don't even have to pay me. I remember I looked at him, I'm like, you don't even have to pay me. Just work, just send me to work. I will do whatever you want me to do. I'll go put out your signs. I'll go print your things. I'll make cold calls for you. I'll do whatever you want me to do, and you don't have to pay me. Let's just see if I can provide enough value to you to where you don't want me to leave. One day you're not going to be in this position, and you just have to carry this action forward.
Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. I am so excited. I have my man who I've gotten to know over, what's it been, like a year and a half, right?
Yeah, almost two.
This is Joe Pop and Go. Joe is amazing. And Joe and I met through my practice, Next Family Chiropractic. I got to give the story and then you can tell all the versions. So Joe has like one of the most epic stories that you have ever heard in your entire life. And if you want to talk about willpower and just like stick within this, Joe is just a superhuman, and I'm gonna let him tell the story. But before that, I gotta tell you a cool story about chiropractic with Joe. So Joe started coming to see me, and he's like, dude, I have 3 weeks until my bachelor party. Yeah. And he's like, I literally can't walk, can't hit a bump in my car.
He's walking around just like...
Back is jacked up, and he's like, were you guys going to Vegas? Is that where you're going for your bachelor party? Yeah. So Joe's going to Vegas for his bachelor party, and long story short, we got him there where he could go and enjoy and have fun. And that was the start of our journey. And then getting to know you, man, just figuring out. So Joe is a real estate advisor. He works for Daftarian Group, which is a really well-known real estate group here in South Orange County. They crush it. They sell really, really big homes. And Joe, how long you been with them?
Almost 8 years.
Yeah, so 8 years. And where I want to go, the reason I have Joe on this podcast is because what you're going to hear from him, and I'm excited to hear the full story because we get it in like that. We get it in the clips of the context of getting adjusted. But Joe has this amazing story of how he started working for Daftarian Group, and then just to get him to the point where I'm just gonna let you tell it, dude. So start wherever you want and just let's dive in, man.
Okay, so I could start with like where I lived originally. I was born and raised in a small town outside of Sacramento called Rockland.
Yep.
Lived there, I went to high school there, graduated, went to college at Concordia University in Irvine, and I was in college, I was enjoying myself, but I wanted to start making some money. So the story has not a couple different versions, but to keep it length appropriate, I think I'll jump to the first guy that I met. I met through Instagram. I met a guy that worked for the owner of this brokerage. I DM'd him. I said, hey, I'm in the area. I'm in college. I want to join a real estate team. And he said, hey, why don't you come to one of my open houses? So I said, sure. So I was not yet enrolled in college. I had come down here to try out for the college's like swimming program.
Gotcha.
And in the morning, we swam, and in the afternoon there was like a huge like get together, and it was like a meet and greet, and I was like, bye guys. And I went to an open house, and I met this guy by the name of Aaron. Awesome dude, one of my was by my side literally from the beginning of my time to now. I had gone back and forth with him, and he finds out, I've got no sales experience. I never had a sales job before. And these homes are, very expensive properties. Orange County in and of itself is one of the most expensive zip codes in the entire United States. So he just kind of looked at me like, okay, so you want to sell real estate? That's nice. And he told me to read all these books, asked me if I had my license. I said no. And he said, well, you got to get your license. So at this point, it was probably junior year of high school. And I had told him, okay, fine, I'll get my license. I'll stay in touch with you. I had, committed to going to Concordia, so I knew that I was coming down to the Irvine, Newport area.
Yeah.
And, I went from junior year in high school. I got my real estate license by the time I got to college. And I came by to, I had just stayed in contact with this Aaron guy, and I kept following up with him, and he finally said, okay, you can start coming to these open houses with me. So I started going to the open houses, and he had me around, but wasn't really introducing me to the team. Mm-hmm. So I kept pushing him. Hey, I want to talk to the owner. Hey, I want to talk to the owner. I want to get hired. I want to start making money. And the point of me wanting to make money in high school, I've always had this thing. I love taking care of people. So I, how do I bridge into this? He essentially kept me in the loop, but never introduced me to the owner of the company. Finally, one day he says, I'm gonna bring you to the owner of the company. He brings me to the owner of the company. This meeting happened at Javier's in Newport Beach, and I'm nervous. I get nervous real easy sometimes. And we go to this meeting. I have a full suit on, tie, everything. I just think I look chipper as hell.
Yep.
And we get to lunch. It was the owner of the company and 3 other guys, and I sit down, and Aaron takes a phone call and leaves. And he like walks over. So I'm sitting there. I'm like, hi, it's nice to meet you. And, the guy just kept eating, started talking to me. And, we went back and forth, ended up telling him, I don't have sales experience, but man, I am a hard worker. I will do whatever I need to do to, prove myself. And, he looked at me and basically just said, you should go get a job at Keller Williams, learn how to sell some real estate.
Yep.
And, the reason why he said Keller Williams is they have training programs for everything. They have training programs for how to talk to people. They have training programs how to do documents, everything. He said, go there, get some sales under your belt, learn how the business operates. And then from there, then maybe we'll revisit it.
Yeah.
And Aaron kind of looked at me and was like, all right, well, that's you should go do that. And I looked at him and I said, Aaron, I can't do that. I don't feel like that's the right thing for me. I said, why don't you let me work for you for free? You don't have to pay me. And when he's ready to hire me, he can hire me. And the only reason why this worked out in this timeline is I knew that I didn't want to work anywhere else. And I had the bandwidth of being able to live, on the college campus. I had, the college meal plan. I was in the dorm. So I was like, worst comes to worst, I give up, a couple months.
Sure.
And, I could just go back to college and, be great. And 8 months later, I'm sitting with couple $1,000s in credit card debt, and he would pay me. I want to make sure that this is clear. He never paid me a salary or anything, but he would, he'd send me some Venmos. Hey, thanks for helping out. And it would get me along. But I wasn't making enough money to live on my own or anything. And, we finally get to the end of that 8-month period where, I was showing up every weekend. I was showing up during the week, and he goes, I walked into our office, and the owner of the company, his name's Paul, he was sitting behind a desk, and I looked at him, and he was on the phone talking with someone else. And he goes, yeah, this guy that we have in our office, Joe, I think it's time to give him salary to bring him onto the team, and see how he does. And then, I from not having a job, from, saying to go work at another brokerage, to then him hiring me 8 months later, I thought was a good, kind of show of willpower and just kind of sticking with something that you want.
Yeah. So a couple things. So you worked for 8 months without getting paid. You got paid, but not really.
Correct.
But I want to go back. We'll come back to that, because that's insanely, just nobody does that. Mm-hmm. One, but dude, you got your real estate license when you were a junior in high school.
Closer
you just kind of brushed over that part, but I feel even if you're pursuing that in high school, when I was a junior in high school, I was just straight up doing drugs and partying. There was no part of me that would have even thought that someone at that age could get a real estate license. So
it was. I kind of mended the story together. I had started talking with Aaron as a junior in high school. Looked at it I didn't actually get my acceptance. Hey, you have your real estate license until freshman year of college,
which is still unreal.
Yeah.
I mean, most 18, 19.
Yeah, I mean, I was in the library studying at the time when everybody else was going to parties, and there's no right or wrong. It's whatever you want to do. It's whatever you want to pursue.
For sure. So give me where did that come from? Because like I said, dude, I just didn't. I had to learn that when I was 30, of what it meant to just work hard for something and be dedicated, and while your other friends are partying, you just say no, and you're so where did that mindset for you come from?
As I was driving here to think about what I'm going to say on this podcast, it's my first podcast. I don't know if you're not supposed to look at the camera or whatever.
You can do whatever you want.
I wish I had done a little bit more preparation. But what I'll tell you is, I grew up in a great environment.
Yeah.
I had an awesome childhood. It was literally a 10 out of 10. But my parents weren't wealthy. They weren't ultra wealthy. They were a normal, hardworking, everyday American family. And I was always the person that wanted to take care of people. I always wanted to help because I would see certain situations where I'd be like, hey, that's not cool.
Yeah.
I don't like seeing what I'm seeing. And I never felt like it was right or appropriate for me to go and like go party or go celebrate or like go out on the weekends. Yes, did I do it sometimes? Yes, but it was very rare.
Yeah.
And I spent a lot of time listening to like guys like Andy Frisella and Ed Milet and David Goggins and Grant Cardone. I listen to Grant Cardone more than anybody else. There's so many people that focus on, they have like 6, 7 mentors online that they watch, or these motivational guys, or these guys telling their story of how they went from 0 to, whatever. I really narrowed down on Grant, and I started watching his videos when I was in high school.
Yeah.
Like freshman to senior year in high school. I really didn't go out. My idea of fun was getting in my car at night and driving around our town, listening to these podcasts. And I would be by myself for 2 hours. Imagine 3 days a week or 4 days a week. I would be in my car for 1 hour or 2 hours at a time, just listening to all this information about like how you're supposed to be a successful adult, how you're supposed to, I even watched stuff about like how you're supposed to be a successful father, how to parent your kids, so that I could have not awareness, but I could have more understanding of what it meant to be like a successful, well-rounded person by the time I was in my early 20s.
Yep.
Your original question was how did I develop that mindset?
Yeah, where did it come from? Because I don't think a lot of people think about that, and that's one of the things. Like I didn't grow up in like a self-development family at all. We had very, very little.
I could tell you I don't want to say that I was always like that, but I never got joy or happiness or contentment from like going out and hanging out with people on the weekends or whatever.
Sure.
Whether that's right or wrong, I like to be by myself. I like to do my own thing.
Yep.
I just, I followed these guys online, and then I always thought to myself, man, I want to be like those guys.
Yeah.
But I could never make the connection between how am I like a 17, 18, 19, 20-year-old living in like Rockland, California, how am I going to go and be like one of these big guys like Grant or, or whatever. And the reason for me watching all those videos was to understand and develop that correct mindset. And they would always say, you have to be repetitive with the things that you really want and things that you really dream of. It's not, you do it for a month and then you stop. So my mindset for always wanting to achieve that next big thing, I know that there's a lot of work that comes from it. I think it was Andy Frisella who said that if you plan a year for something, you should really plan like 5 years, because it's going to take way longer than you think.
Yep. So good, man. Yeah, that's oh, dude, there's so much wrapped up in that. So, like, okay, I have like many, many questions for you about this whole thing. Okay, so I just got to remind people, if they're listening, like, you literally worked for 8 months. Give me like the end of that, because I feel like you were at a point where you're saying, and you mentioned like the credit cards racking up and some of that stuff.
Yeah.
But my understanding of it, when you told me previously, before I'm like, Joe, you got to tell this story on the podcast, is that you were to the point where you're like, all right, I can't do this for much longer.
Yeah, I mean, it got to the point where I was kind of thinking to myself, because, again, you have to remember my entire mindset is focused on, I want to be super successful. I want to be financially successful. I want to have good relationships with people, but I want to do that so that I can continue to help people.
Yeah.
Well, at this point, I couldn't even help myself. At least that was my mindset. I was thinking, man, this isn't good.
Yeah.
I'm working for this guy, which, by the way, those 8 months were like some of the best 8 months of my life. They were very fun. But I got to the 8-month period and I started to think to myself, I either need to, lock this in, and I need to make this what I want to do, and I want to stick with these guys, because all the guys on the team were very cool. It was a very fun atmosphere.
Yeah.
But still, when I went home at night, I was like, shoot, I've got some credit card payments now that I need to make, and I don't have any money. So I had told the mentor that I had at the time, Aaron.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, we need to figure something out right now, because I'm in a point where like I can't really go any farther,
right,
or else I'm gonna have to get like another job, and I just didn't want to do that. once I get an idea in my head for something that I want to do, I will do whatever I have to do, even if it's like borderline not healthy for myself. Like if I have to work crazy hours to get something done, I'll do it. If I have to sacrifice family time to do it, I'll do it.
Sure.
And I had told Aaron that. He went and talked to the owner of the company. The owner of the company then finally was like, I think it's an appropriate time to bring you in. I was
Paid
like,
dues,
all right,
baby.
let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's such a reminder for people of like, hey, don't give up because there's something on the other side of it. I'm not saying you got to work for free, but like just that no one does it, dude. That's why I think it's so cool. Is like most people would literally be like, 2 weeks in, I can't do this anymore. I give up. So I have another question for you, and then we'll change gears a little bit. But one of my questions is, did you finish at Concordia? Like, did you graduate?
I did, yeah, but I finished online.
Okay, got it. What'd you major in, if you don't mind me asking?
I majored in business administration and leadership.
Okay, sweet. So you did kind of in the same lane, and then you were swimming there as well.
Yep.
So like, it still just blows my mind that you did all this stuff before you ever graduated college.
Well, this story I have told so many times. It's shocking to me that I don't have this like literally like memorized word for word. But obviously, because we're in a podcast setting, I'm going to forget things. You have to remember, I didn't have anything that was holding me back.
Yeah.
And I want to be careful with the words that I use. Things don't hold people back. That's like a mindset.
For sure.
But I didn't have any of the, like, I didn't have like a whole family at the time. I didn't have kids. I didn't have, at the time, and I still don't have people that like absolutely 100% rely on me for like their next meal. You know what I mean? So I felt like just being a younger person, I had the flexibility to kind of do what I wanted.
Yeah.
And those were the things that made me excited. Like going to work, like makes me excited. I'm a workaholic. My dad is a workaholic. I get all of this from him. My dad also has OCD. I have OCD. So like I like to keep things organized and structured. And if I can repeat things over and over and I get into a really good groove, I unless there's like a catastrophic event, like nothing's going to take me out of that groove.
Yeah. So good, man. So good. Okay, so we're going to change gears a little bit because you said it and it speaks to my heart. You said, I've always liked to take care of people.
Always.
So I'm curious to know, like I see the connection, but I would just love to hear it from you of like, what is it about, especially the clientele that you work with that I won't even say that. What is it about doing what you do that gives you that, like that scratches that itch of like, this allows me to take care of people? Like, can you dive into that a little bit?
Yeah. What about what I do gives me the itch that satisfies that curve of wanting to take care of people? I think because the clientele that we deal with are they're high end and ultra high end.
Yep. We're talking
properties.
Like ultra high end.
I mean, our average price point at the company that I work with is like 8.5 or 8.6 million.
Yeah.
So, you have to be an exceptional person to be able to afford an $8 million house. Whether you work for someone or you have your own business or you've created a product or whatever, you had to have done things that were ultra unique to get you into a position to be able to do that. What I like is I like to be able to come in and, I mean, essentially like handle that whole process. When I see someone who's a business owner or whatever, and they're super stressed out, they want to buy a house, their wife wants to get in, they don't want to disrupt the kids. There's a lot that goes into like buying a house, especially when you're running a business or you're running an organization and you're flying all over the world in the United States. You want to have somebody that you can hand something off to and know that it's going to get done. When I started in the business, I really wanted to learn the mechanics of the business. I wanted to learn how things operated which is what people should do in every business.
Yeah.
I wanted to understand the process really well. And once I understood how to do the process, I felt really comfortable looking at people and saying, "Hey, why don't you just let me handle that? I promise you that's going to get done. Don't worry about it. I've got it covered." And they would look at me and they'd go, "Okay." And then they would back away from the process and I would handle everything. And they'd come back and they'd be like, "What's going on?" I'd be like, "This is done, this is done, this is done, this is done. And we're closing this day." And they'd be like, "Hey, that's fantastic. That's exactly what we wanted."
Yeah.
And I found in this business, in the area that we're working with, I not only scratch that itch for myself, we obviously get compensated very well. And then I'm able to learn like firsthand from all these individuals on how they got successful.
Yep. So good. One, you said like you got to be an exceptional human being to buy an $8 million home, which
Yeah.
is the average price. And I know you guys are doing some that are like 50, some crazy properties. But so my question is, because I know your wife,
Yep.
and I know you well, and I've gotten to know you, so I feel like I've built enough trust where I can ask you this question.
Yep.
Do you see that some of those people, while doing well in business, may struggle in other areas? Like, for instance, spirituality will be the thing that comes up, because I know Brooke's been like, and you guys, I know you guys we go to the same church, so that's a whole thing. But is there any, like, can you speak to that part at all? Because I think that sometimes people look on the outside and they're like, oh, they have all the money in the world, and that sounds great. But I also know people who have like major houses at Strands, but their life is like a disaster.
Yeah, I think people look at people who are, I want to make sure I segment this right. Success.
And if we need to cut it, dude.
No.
Okay.
No. This is something that we can talk about. Success is a word that has a societal understanding of monetary. Usually, that's when someone says, "Hey, man, you're really successful." They think you have a lot of money, but success is really a personal word that people sometimes don't remember to connect to their own beliefs or their own, goals or aspirations. I think just because you're successful monetarily and you can afford an $8 million house doesn't mean you're successful relationally, or doesn't mean you're successful in all of the different pillars or areas of your life. There's family life, there's spirituality, there's what you do with your church, and then there's you and your business, you being able to financially help your family, your friends, and being able to buy properties or cars or planes or whatever. Everything is separate. Success isn't one word that should be used to define the totality of like who someone is.
Yeah. So how, and again, like, I just love your wife and she's so sweet. So give me like, what success look like for you guys in totality?
Success for me, I think would be a lifelong marriage with my wife.
Yep.
A happy marriage, not a marriage that like we fight or bicker.
Yeah.
And people
Which you might have some of that.
No. I think for sure you're definitely going to fight or bicker, but it's being so close with that person that you fight or bicker, and then you kind of look at each other afterwards, and you're like,
yeah,
we didn't need to do that.
Yeah.
I love you too. And then you're done. I want 2-3 kids. I obviously want to be successful monetarily, but I want to be successful monetarily. Like, yes, I want a nice house and I want some cars.
Sure.
But I think being able to take care of my parents has been the biggest blessing for me. I like to be able to I look for opportunities to help other people in times of need. I look for opportunities to be able to go to somebody and be able to say, hey, like, don't worry about this anymore. I've got this covered.
Yeah.
I can help you with that. That brings me joy. I go to work and I work so hard really for that. I get a high off of being able to help other people. You can help yourself so much. And I think when I was younger, I've got a great story about money. When I was younger, I thought, man, if I could make X amount of dollars, man, I want to be so happy. I'll be able to do all the things I want. I could travel with my wife. I could or my girlfriend at the time, who I later married. I was, I don't know, 22 or 23.
Yeah.
I had closed a big property, and I made like $101,000 or $102,000 in one check, and I got the check, and I had never been more dissatisfied with myself.
Crazy.
And it wasn't because like I was bummed or anything, but I got the check and I thought it was going to give me a feeling of satisfaction or a feeling of, hey, this is everything you've been working for. But it wasn't until I deposited that check and was able to, I tithe 10% of all the money that I make to, the church, which I can get into that in a minute. But, it wasn't until I deposited the money. And a few weeks later, I found somebody who needed some help and I helped them. And I then got the satisfaction I needed. I had realized it's not about the things that you do for yourself. It's the things that you do for other people. And if more people subscribe to that mentality and they did other things for people, that reciprocal action is eventually going to come back to you, and it'll just make the whole environment a better place.
So good, man. What's the coolest thing that you've ever done for somebody else? Like, it may not be actually the coolest, but like the thing that's brought you the most joy and fulfillment.
Man, you put me on the spot there. I don't know. What is the coolest thing I've ever done for someone else?
And it could be small, dude. Like I'll give you an example. So when I think this was last year, it's like I think exactly a year ago. So we have clients who they've trusted us with their family for a long time, and one of their kiddo has like pretty severe special needs. And we've just like fallen in love with the family and fallen in love with that kiddo, and like they trust us so much. And God just put it on my heart. He's like, dude, write them like a ridiculous check.
Yeah,
And
I've done things like that.
And I haven't talked to Heather about it. And she's like, yeah, just do it. So we we didn't need to say the amount or anything like that, but literally wrote this check, gave it to him. And the mom came, we tried to do it. So like she wouldn't open it until she got home. And of course she opens in the car and she comes back and she's like, I cannot take this. And we're like, yeah, you can take it. You got to.
Yeah.
And like, we're all in tears. Danielle's in tears, all of it. But the coolest thing, dude, I get a text message literally like the next day, because I think they just had to think about it. And they were like, no one's ever like done anything like this for us. She texts me the next day and she's like, it's the exact amount we needed to get this specific van for our kiddo, so that it would just be easier to transport her in the wheelchair. So that's
so to jump off of that, I think it's that. There's no one moment that I can pinpoint, but it's doing those types of actions, not only for like my family, but for my friends or for people that, I surround myself with. I love doing things like that.
Yeah.
I've got a great tithing story like that. I zero out my tithing account at the end of the year.
Yep.
Because I believe, whatever you made that year, you're supposed to give 10%. It's not supposed to be a savings account for you. At the end of the year, you zero that out, and you don't worry about like where your next check or your next, whatever is going to come from. God will provide that for you. So we got to December. This was a couple years ago. It was like halfway through December, and I'm thinking, all right, I donated to this place, I know these guys are good. And I asked God, which I do all the time, find me someone to help. Find me, put me in line with someone who needs help.
Yeah.
And the next day, no, it wasn't the next day, it was a couple days later, I was overhearing a conversation that was happening in our office about somebody. And the person was just a person that I knew really well.
Sure.
I knew that they were in, kind of a pinch. I zeroed out my entire tithing account. I wrote this individual check, and same thing. He's like, I can't accept this. Absolutely not. I was like, you're going to accept it. And I always tell this saying to someone when I give them something, because I never want somebody to feel like they're in like a lower position, or feeling like they're not up to some par. I give whoever I'm giving a check to, or cash, whatever. And I say, I'm giving this to you. This is for you. Don't worry about the amount, but you have to do something for me. One day you're not going to be in this position, and you just have to carry this action forward. And they always look, and they always start crying. They're like, absolutely, I will. And it just makes me feel good knowing that like I'm not just giving them something, but I'm giving them a little bit of hope too.
Yeah.
Like I'm trying to influence their mind to believe that they're not going to be in that position.
Yeah.
Because you can really work yourself out of any hole with your mindset. Yeah. It's really your mindset. So going back to that check, gave that person that check. 2 months later, I was doing a deal, and we have set, commission splits on all of our deals. And I didn't ask for this, but my partner comes to me. He goes, hey, you just absolutely knocked it out of the park on that one. I'm going to give you a little bump in your commission. I was like, hey, that's great.
Yeah.
The check that I got was exactly to the dollar 10 times the check that I gave.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And I tell that story, and people get chills all the time. It's like a God nodding at you, like you did the right thing.
Yeah, that's so good, man. I love that, kind of like circling back to you said it so well. You're like, I got a check for 6 figures. And they were like, I wasn't happy. But
no, I was sitting in my car like, well, this is what this was all about. This isn't that fun.
Yeah. And then but to realize that the thing that actually is on the other side of that is just being generous. Yeah. In whatever way you're called to. Like sometimes it's tithing to a church, sometimes it's giving to somebody else, sometimes it's donating to an orphanage, or like whatever it is, right?
Oh, well, yeah. So I was thinking something. I can save that thought for later.
Go ahead.
No, it's okay. I'll save it for later.
So I think it's so special that the part of it that really matters is being able to be generous and like help other people with what we do create in business or in life or whatever it is. And I think that's, kind of one of the things that you benefited from is like those guys recording those podcasts that gave you a lot of momentum at a young age, which is special to be able to like fully go all in and work for 8 months without a paycheck. Yeah. And do some of the things that you've done and still finish school.
And it allowed me to be able to speak too.
Yeah.
Now, your viewers probably are watching this like, this guy can't talk very well. Well, I'm a little nervous. First podcast. But don't cut that out. We're keeping that. But, watching those things and really immersing myself in the kind of mindset that I wanted to have, I was able to, I think, use those skills and articulate what I wanted to do in a way that was receptive to the people who were listening to me, to where they were like, hey, this guy could, we got to tweak, we got to tweak some things, but he could do what we need him to.
Yeah. Well, and I love, you said it in the beginning, you were like, they wanted me to go to Keller Williams. Keller Williams? Is that right?
Williams.
Yeah. And like go through all their training programs, and you realize that like, I don't have to do that. I can literally, like, in a way, you got all the same stuff online for free.
Yeah, you have to have, was that the right thing to tell me? Yes, it was 100% the right thing to do.
Sure.
Keller Williams is a massive real estate company.
Yep.
They do a ton of sales, and they have built the correct infrastructure to train new agents. I just have a little bit of arrogance to where I'm like, I want to go work for the big guys, and I'm willing to do whatever I have to do. You don't even have to pay me. I remember I looked at him, I'm like, you don't even have to pay me. Just work, just send me to work. I will do whatever you want me to do. I'll go put out your signs. I'll go print your things. I'll make cold calls for you. I'll do whatever you want me to do, and you don't have to pay me. Let's just see if I can provide enough value to you to where you don't want me to leave.
Yeah, that's so good, man. And I think one of the things, like, I see, we have quite a few Kairos, like, students who will come through the office. And I think one of the things that they forget is that a lot of times, like, they show up and it's like, bro, seriously, like, you could be paying me. Like, you probably could have been paying to learn all the skills that you learned when you work for free. And that's like, I think that's part of the lesson is like everything you need to know, you don't have to go, like, it's online.
Yeah,
you could literally get it for free. But what you pay for is the implementation of the stuff. And you didn't pay with money, you paid with your time for 8 months. But the same thing is true is like everything's already out there. Everybody knows what they need to do. You're either paying for the implementation of it or you're really just like wasting your time, Yeah. I think that's it's just such a good lesson and a good reminder to just to think about the fact that like if you want to do something, there's a way to do it. And the only thing that will hold you back are just excuses,
and your mindset.
Yeah.
I think people get too caught up in the mindset of the time that it is going to take for me to do this, or people also look at success linearly, and it's not.
Yeah, for sure.
1 year you could have a ton of success, and the next year you could not. Success isn't a straight line. It's like this all the time. I tell guys in our office all the time. The one thing that I'm really proud of that I do, and I don't like to say I'm proud of a lot of things because pride always comes before the fall.
Yep.
But I am proud of the advice that I give people sometimes, because it is, at least I believe it's very grounded advice. You hear people talk sometimes and you're like, hey, I don't necessarily know if I align with that advice or recommendations. And like, I've cross-checked this so many times to where I know with success, the advice that I give really, 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 really helps people. I tell guys in our office who are starting, because there's a lot of guys who, I don't want to say have followed in my exact footsteps, but our company has grown now to a point to where we're hiring a ton more people. Yep. When I started, we had 6 or 7 people. We've got like 20, 25 people now on our team.
Wow.
And we've hired more people who don't have any sales experience, and they just come right in. And they learn by osmosis, right? Osmosis, being around.
Yep.
And I tell them all the time, they're like, I've been here X amount of months, and like I haven't put any sales together. And like I'm kind of getting discouraged. And I tell people all the time, you have to think of your growth trajectory as like an arrow. You put an arrow on a bow, and you pull it back. Well, you're going backwards as what seems like everybody else is going forwards.
Yeah.
But when
so
God
good,
says,
dude.
okay, that arrow can fly,
Yep.
you're going to shoot past everyone else. And I tell that to everybody to remind them that, it's not like a linear path. If you're making X amount of dollars one year and you need, X, Y to live,
Yep.
don't worry. Just keep making X, and X could turn into Y, could turn into B, could turn into whatever.
Yeah. Dude, that's so good. I never heard the arrow analogy before. That's really, really. I've heard
it's a
people
good
talk
one. I
about
like
like
that
resistance. It's just a good image, like a really good image. So, if you had to give one piece of advice, you were like, "This is the success principle that I would live by." What would that be for you? Like, if you, I mean, everybody listening, anybody, you could frame it up in the way that you're like the people that you work with inside of your office specifically. Like, what's the number one piece of advice you would give people on the success front?
I think you really have to lean into your faith.
Yeah.
And not, I hear so many people talk about faith like, you have to go to church every week and you have to read your Bible every night. And you have to, I'm not that type of Christian. I don't do that. I go to church like maybe once a month, maybe twice a month if I'm feeling real good. I read my Bible maybe once a week, twice a week. I do a lot of stuff online. I've downloaded like Bible apps and there's, scriptures and stuff that will come up in the form of stories because I got to keep myself entertained somehow. I'm just not one of those guys that can sit there and read and highlight. I just don't do that. I think you really have to lean into your faith. If you look at the like certain sections of the Bible, God really made the world like a sandbox. If you've ever played like a sandbox, like a video game, in the video game, you can do whatever you want. Well, God made us in his likeness and his image to have the ability to do what he does.
Yeah.
But now we obviously can't go and create our own worlds and mountains and seas, but we can create our own world. We have the ability to influence what we do. I think people also don't talk to God. I talk to God, I ask him things all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. Hey, man, if you put me in this person's purview, whatever, I will do good by you. I will do good by you. I'll continue to tithe to you. And it's not like a transactional relationship.
Sure.
I'm just telling him like, I'm going to do the right thing.
Yeah.
I'm going to do the right thing with the funds you give me. I'm going to do the right thing with the relationships that you give me. I'm going to do the right thing with the people that you put in my life. There's a scripture that says that, God will make room for you.
Yep.
And he will put you in the presence and power of great men. Well, I have great men that surround me all the time. And I always meet new ones because I feel like if you lean into your faith and you have conversations with God, I don't like sit down at the end of the day and like pray and bow my head. I talk to him all day long. When I'm in the car, I talk to him all the time. Hey, I really want to do this. I really want to help this person. I really want to become this. Obviously, I want all of this stuff to be done within your will. I want what you want, and I want it to align.
Yep.
But I also want to squeeze out as much as I can of life and leave nothing to where I'm, I also have this thing. I want to live to 100. I'm going to live to 100. I don't want to be 100 and look back and think, I wish I did that.
Yeah.
I wish I did that. And I think if people leaned more into their faith and then really just calm down. I think people get themselves so wound up trying to like make every single thing perfect. When I stop and I say, you know what? Today's Tuesday.
Yep.
I'm going to do the absolute best I can today. I'm going to nourish my body with the right foods. I'm going to have water. I'm going to work out. I'm going to do the best I can at work. And I'm going to write my goals down. And tomorrow I'm going to do the same thing. And I'm going to talk to God about it. And I have actually seen my goals, priorities, mindset, and beliefs shift into things that have helped more people. And the path I think that he's chosen is always better than the path that you choose because you choose your own path based on a limited perspective.
100%.
He has no limited perspective.
Yeah.
He can see every angle, and there's thousands of angles that are constantly working because we also have free will.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's so good, man. I think a lot of people get like the vision for what they want their life to look like, but then they don't have the faith that it can actually happen for them. And a big part, like you read the Bible, dude, there's so many places where it's like, hey, there's this promised land, or like God has all these promises for us, but so many people forget that those are there and they exist.
You know who I think tells stories about the Bible better than anybody else, or stories about how the Bible has helped him, is Steve Harvey.
Okay.
If you've ever watched, like I do this all the time, and I did this when I was like 16 to 20. I did this every single day. I would type in on YouTube, Steve Harvey speech, Steve Harvey motivational speech, Steve Harvey Bible stories.
Yeah.
And he will go through stories about how the principles in the Bible have helped. Steve Harvey's story is crazy. He was homeless, had absolutely no money. Now now he's one of the most powerful men in media. I forgot where I was going with that.
Just the promises that Bible has for you.
Yeah, if you lean into that, dude, it's crazy.
Yeah, so good, man. So just having faith. I mean, you had to do that. It's like you live it out in such a real way. Going back to that, like to the beginning of like, dude, I literally did this for 8 months with no promise that I was going to get like an official job at the end of it.
But you know, my thought was also, if this doesn't work out, I'm going to learn a whole lot.
Yeah. Well, and you had the heart too. It's special getting to hear you talk about this part of it, because we don't really get to talk about this in the context of like me adjusting you. But like, I didn't realize how much you just want to help people.
Yeah,
you know?
I love it because you can only help yourself so much.
Yeah.
When I am happiest when I'm helping other people, and like I get to help people in my job.
Yeah.
And I get to help people at home, and then I can help my family out, and then I can help random strangers out. And the more that you end up helping people, the richer your life is going to be.
Amen.
In all levels.
Yeah, dude, that's so good. I feel like let's do some parting words. Any last, like, anything else you want to share? Any final words for like thoughts, whatever it is?
You know, nothing I can think of right now.
Yeah, dude, I think you nailed it with that last piece is like the generous heart and the ability to help other people is what it's all about.
Yeah. Like
you can build a big business, but at the end of the day, it's like I get to help more people, right? I get to take care of more people. I get to take better care of the team. And there's nothing that's greater than the people in our lives.
Yeah, I agree.
So cool, man. Joe, thank you so much for being here, dude.
Of course, man. Thank you.
A pleasure. Dude, I can't wait to see the edited version. It's going to be epic.
It's going to be very fun.
Love you, bro.
Thanks, man.
Thanks for being here.
See ya.